A mysterious phone call to an Italian journalist.
Where did you get this information?
And he said, do not believe what they are going to say.
Throws an air crash investigation into turmoil.
No, we absolutely have to have more of the wreckage.
There are rumors of a cover-up.
Nobody on the legal side believed us.
Investigators suspect foul play.
I think it was a bomb.
81 people are killed in an instant.
All of a sudden, the aeroplane was in pieces in the sky.
It was shot down by a missile.
What brought down the passenger plane? A bomb or a missile?
They said that my theory was ridiculous.
The goal that we were presented with was to find the truth.
In the glow of the setting sun, Itavia Airlines Flight 870 cruises 29,000 feet above the Mediterranean Sea.
Good evening, 870, maintaining 290 over Puma.
Roger. Proceed Latina. Fonza.
Roma, 870.
Captain Domenico Gatti and First Officer Enzo Fontana are at the controls of the DC-9.
The crew had the kind of experience that you would hope to see with your own particular crew on the flight that you're just about to take. And the flight itself was short and very easy to do.
Among the 77 passengers is Alberto Bonfietti, a journalist on his way to meet his family in Palermo.
Mio fratello Alberto.
That Friday afternoon, my brother Alberto took that plane to go to Palermo and meet his wife and daughter, who were already there on vacation.
The flight from Bologna to Palermo takes about an hour and a half. But just halfway to their destination, First Officer Fontana is running into a problem.
Look at this, I'm getting nothing.
Try Ponza instead.
Nothing.
There's no signal from many of the navigation beacons that normally guide pilots towards Palermo.
870, Roma. It's like a graveyard tonight.
We haven't found a single beacon working properly.
Everything is a bit out.
What is your heading?
We are at
195.
Without the beacons, the pilots need directions from air traffic control.
I don't
know if you want to keep that heading. Otherwise,
you can go right 15 or 20 degrees.
Okay, we put in 210.
The plane turns and flies into a pocket of turbulence.
High-level turbulence, it's just like, it's like being on a road which has got potholes in it. On many flights that anybody will take at some stage during the journey, you will encounter some degree of turbulence.
The pilots hope a lower altitude will give their passengers a smoother ride.
Let's try to get under this.
This is 870. Is it possible to get
250?
Affirmative. You can start your descent now.
Pilots quite often ask for a change of level. If they've got a little bit of choppiness, which they know will make the passengers uncomfortable or even nervous, then they'll try another level. And that's what we think they were trying to do.
Ah, there we go, finally.
There's more good news.
Palermo's coming in well.
The navigation beacons are now working.
And
we have the Ponza DME.
Good. Call back for descent.
Thank you for everything.
We'll call you for descent.
870.
The controllers will have no further contact with the pilots until they begin their landing. But just seconds later, Itavia Flight 870 breaks into pieces and disappears from radar.
Itavia 870, Rome. Itavia 870, Rome. We're missing a flight. Itavia 870. It's gone.
Flight 870 has crashed into the Mediterranean Sea.
It's very surreal for a controller to go through an experience like that, because you can't quite believe what you're seeing. I mean, accidents are very, very rare. So when you're a part of one, when you're watching one happen, you don't quite believe it.
By morning, Italian search and rescue teams are scanning the waters near the plane's last known position. Family members waiting at the airport are told only that the plane is missing, its fate unknown.
The first words we heard were that the plane was assumed to be lost.
Searchers soon confirmed the worst. There are no signs of any survivors. All 81 passengers and crew are dead, including Alberto Bonfietti.
I bought my brother's ticket for that damn flight, and I never saw him again.
The loss of Flight 870 makes news around the world. There seems to be no way to explain why a modern airliner fell from the sky so suddenly. Andrea Purgatori is a well-known reporter for one of Italy's largest daily newspapers.
In 1980, I was an investigative reporter for Corriere della Sera, which was and is still the most important newspaper in Italy.
On the night of the crash, he gets an astounding phone call.
I received a phone call from an air traffic controller in Rome.
Where did you get this information?
And he said, I cannot talk to you long from this phone, but do not believe what they are going to say, because it was shot down by a missile.
The source points him toward a controversial theory. Flight 870 was caught in the crossfire during a dogfight between NATO and Libyan jets.
There was a situation of tension in the Mediterranean, which was very close to, you know, the tension you have before a war.
In 1980, the Mediterranean is a military hot zone. Italy lies just across the sea from Libya. It's an outlaw nation ruled by Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, an international pariah.
At that time, Gaddafi was like Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden for the United States and most of the Western world.
Has the political tension between Libya and the West somehow claimed the lives of 81 innocent people?
Yes. I can guarantee your identity is safe with me.
Purgatori is convinced he's on the verge of breaking a major international story.
That was a kind of story that, as a reporter, I mean, you can, you know, find probably once in your life, once in your career.
Okay, let's meet.
But it will take more than 30 years to find out what really happened that night in the skies over Italy. Two days after the Itavia Airlines tragedy, Andrea Purgatori writes a front-page story that shocks Italy and the world.
It's out.
I was the first to say, okay, there's a possibility that the DC-9 was hit by a missile.
Purgatori does some digging and comes up with an astonishing theory.
Western jet fighters, probably French, were engaging in an act of war with Libyan airplanes. And the Libyan airplanes were probably hiding themselves behind the DC-9. And the DC-9 was just, you know, in the wrong place, in the wrong moment, and it was hit by one of the missiles.
The Italian government dismisses early media reports that a missile brought down Flight 870 and launches an official investigation into the crash.
The Italian Air Force decided to give a press conference in which they said that my theory was ridiculous.
38 bodies have been recovered from the crash site. But most of the wreckage from Flight 870 has sunk to the bottom of the Mediterranean. Investigators have little to go on.
Is this all we have?
The early investigators of this accident didn't have very much to look at. There wasn't very much wreckage.
They hope air traffic controllers on duty at the time of the crash will have more information.
There was some problem with the beacons on the night, but otherwise everything seemed fine.
But the controllers have no idea what went wrong.
Palermo's coming in well.
Good.
Call back for descent.
They heard no sign of trouble from the crew.
Thank you for everything.
We'll call you for descent, 870.
If it's a slowly gathering emergency where things go wrong bit by bit until the aircraft becomes uncontrollable, the pilots are sure as hell going to tell somebody. They didn't have time to. So whatever it was had been really sudden.
A mid-air collision could explain the accident. The controllers can't say for sure if there were other aircraft nearby. Their radar is tuned to detect airliners and may not have picked up smaller planes.
This is Alto Tessa.
Investigators need a solid lead. They have no proof that a missile brought down the plane, but there's no proof of any other cause either.
We need to look at every possible explanation.
An investigator, of course, if, for example, the press is speculating about the aircraft having been shot down, the investigators will read that like other people do, but they'll be keeping an open mind.
They study other incidents involving the same type of plane.
They were casting around for any historic evidence that might tell them what happened.
They learned that in the last decade, 4 other DC-9s suffered structural failures. If the Atavia plane broke apart because of metal fatigue or a design flaw, thousands of lives could be at risk. But the research sheds no new light on the crash.
This one landed safely.
In each previous emergency, the pilots have enough warning to take action.
This one too.
And land their planes safely.
We've got nothing here.
With most of the wreckage at the bottom of the sea, investigators have only floating debris to work with.
You can have seat cushions, they float. Equipment from the galleys, from the kitchens on board the aircraft, they float. Plastic components from the overhead lockers. These are all the sorts of things that you would expect to float. And sure enough, they found those.
They carefully map the location of each recovered piece. If the DC-9 hit the water in one piece, it would have disintegrated on impact, leaving debris in a small, concentrated area. But if it broke up in flight, its forward momentum would have scattered debris over a large area. Pieces of the plane have been found spread across more than 200 square kilometers of ocean. It's a revealing discovery.
Too far apart to have happened on impact.
The crew didn't know it was coming. Air traffic control didn't know it was coming. And then all of a sudden, the aeroplane was in pieces in the sky.